The crimson sky of Zoraxis 4 stretched endlessly above the stark training facility, its thin atmosphere creating an otherworldly backdrop for the elite survival program attended by cadets from across the galaxy. Each species represented a pinnacle of their civilization's military prowess. Yet here they all stood as equals under the unforgiving alien sun. Mia Chen adjusted her breathing apparatus, the only human among a cohort of beings whose technological prowess far exceeded that of Earth. To her left stood Arzuk, a towering Keltari, whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed with bio-integrated neural interfaces. On her right, Valar's translucent Zephyrian skin shimmered with internal bioluminescent displays that monitored everything from atmospheric pressure to quantum field fluctuations. These aliens represented civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel while humans were still using chemical rockets. Today's exercise will test your ability to maintain life support systems under extreme duress, announced Instructor Gorth, whose tentacled form writhed with electromagnetic fields that translated his thoughts into understandable language for each species. You will be working in teams of 6 with minimal technological assistance. Remember, primitive conditions require primitive solutions. The comment drew snickers from several alien cadets, particularly those whose species had evolved beyond the need for simplistic problem-solving centuries ago. Mia felt their collective gaze weighing her down, a constant reminder that she represented the least technologically advanced species in the program. The training facility was a marvel of engineering, a self-contained ecosystem that could simulate any planetary condition known to the galactic database. Today's scenario, a mineral-rich asteroid where mining operations had failed after a catastrophic system failure. The cadets would need to survive while maintaining minimal life support. As the teams formed, Mia found herself paired with 4 alien cadets who looked less than enthusiastic about their assignment. Razuk's mandibles clicked in what she recognized as mild annoyance, while Vilar's bioluminescent patterns shifted to colors that likely indicated displeasure in Zephyrian emotional vocabulary. "Great," muttered Thax, a Valdorian, whose crystalline body structure hummed with internal energy. "We get the primitive." The 6th member of their team, Nyx from the aquatic Benthari system, remained characteristically silent, her gills fluttering as she adjusted to the thin atmosphere through her specialized suit. Within the facility's main chamber complex, holographic displays showed atmospheric readings, life support metrics, and resource allocation patterns. Everything was automated, managed by quantum processing units that could calculate survival probabilities for any given scenario in nanoseconds. "Exercise commences in 3 minutes, Gorth announced. Teams will be locked in their designated sections. Communication with instructors will be limited to life-threatening emergencies only. Mia's team was assigned to Section C, a sprawling area that simulated an abandoned mining station. The walls were lined with defunct machinery, emergency lockers, and a small hydroponic bay that had been deactivated. Everything was designed to look sophisticated, but be fundamentally non-functional, forcing the cadets to improvise. The moment the exercise began, all advanced systems shut down simultaneously. Emergency lighting flickered to life, bathing everything in an ominous red glow. The first priority was obvious: check life support status. Primary atmospheric processors are offline. Arzuk reported his neural interfaces synchronizing with what remained of the functional systems. "We have approximately 47 minutes of breathable atmosphere before oxygen levels drop to critical." The alien cadets immediately sprang into action, their training evident in their coordinated response. Vilar interfaced with the backup power systems, while Thax attempted to reroute energy from defunct mining equipment. Nyx monitored atmospheric composition through her specialized sensors. Mia watched for a moment, then began inspecting their environment more systematically. While her teammates focused on repairing the technological systems, she noted the deactivated hydroponic bay with particular interest. Unlike the others, she approached problems from a different angle, one informed by Earth's history of surviving with limited technology. The quantum processing units are completely dead, Vilar announced after several minutes of intense work. The electromagnetic pulse was more comprehensive than expected. Emergency atmospheric reserves are minimal. Nix added her voice, carrying the wet gurgling quality typical of her species. Even if we recover primary systems, we lack the resources to regenerate breathable air. After 30 minutes of frantic work, the alien cadets had managed to restore partial power to some systems, but the critical life support remained offline. Worse, their attempts at technological solutions were consuming their remaining oxygen faster than anticipated. "We're using too much energy," Razuk said, his mandibles clicking anxiously. "Every system we activate draws from our reserves." It was then that panic began to set in. These beings representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations found themselves helpless when their technology failed them. They began making increasingly desperate attempts to restore systems that were beyond repair with available resources. While her teammates argued over increasingly complex technological solutions, Mia had been quietly exploring the deactivated hydroponic bay. She found sealed containers of algae stock nutrient solutions and basic growing equipment that had been shut down as part of the exercise. "What are you doing?" Razuk demanded when he noticed her absence from the group's technical discussions. "Making oxygen," Mia replied simply, gathering algae containers and examining the hydroponic equipment. Making oxygen. Thek's crystalline structure resonated with what might have been laughter. With what primitive combustion, electrolysis, our energy reserves are too limited for such inefficient processes. Mia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she began setting up a simple apparatus using the hydroponic bays. She filled containers with water from the facility's reserves, added algae samples she had found, and positioned them under emergency lighting that was still functional. "She's trying to use plants." Valar observed her bioluminescent patterns shifting to colors that suggested bewilderment. Actual living organisms to produce oxygen. The concept seemed almost laughably primitive to beings whose technology could manipulate matter at the quantum level when functioning properly. Their civilizations had moved beyond biological solutions millennia ago. "The algae in these containers are capable of photosynthesis," Mia explained as she worked. "Given adequate light and nutrients, they'll produce oxygen through the same process that plants have used for billions of years on hundreds of worlds." "That's impossibly slow," Razuk objected. "We need immediate solutions." But as the minutes ticked by, their technological solutions continued to fail. Systems that should have been repairable remained stubbornly offline. The aliens' increasing panic was evident as their oxygen reserves dwindled. With 20 minutes remaining, Mia's algae setup was beginning to show signs of activity. Small bubbles formed in the water as the organisms began their photosynthetic processes. It wasn't much, but it was working. "It's actually producing oxygen." Nix observed her aquatic nature, making her particularly sensitive to dissolved gases in measurable quantities. The atmosphere began to change literally and figuratively. As the algae worked, each bubble rising to the surface represented fresh oxygen entering their environment. It was a painstakingly slow process compared to mechanical systems, but it was steady and reliable. "How did you know this would work?" Valar asked, her typically confident demeanor replaced by genuine curiosity. "On Earth, we've had to solve problems without advanced technology for most of our history," Mia explained while monitoring the algae tanks. "When systems fail, sometimes the oldest solutions are the most reliable." With 10 minutes left on their initial estimate, the air quality began to improve noticeably. The algae tanks were now actively producing oxygen, and Mia had optimized their placement to maximize photosynthetic efficiency under the emergency lighting. The alien cadets watched in fascination as this primitive biological system began to solve their crisis. Their advanced neural interfaces and quantum processors had failed them, but these simple organisms were succeeding. "The oxygen levels are stabilizing," Urzuk announced his mandibles no longer clicking with anxiety. How long can this process sustain us? Indefinitely with proper management, Mia replied. We'll need to maintain the algae cultures, ensure adequate nutrients, and possibly expand the system if needed. But yes, this can keep us alive. As the exercise continued, the alien cadets found themselves learning entirely new approaches to problem solving. Instead of trying to repair complex systems, they worked with Mia to optimize the biological oxygen production. They learned about maintaining proper water pH nutrient cycling and maximizing light efficiency. This is actually quite elegant, Thex admitted. She helped position containers for optimal light exposure. The system is self-regulating and requires no external power beyond basic illumination. The transformation in her teammates was gradual but unmistakable. The dismissive attitude they'd shown toward Earth's primitive approaches gave way to respect and even admiration. They began asking Mia about other biological solutions, about how humans had survived for millennia without technology that could manipulate matter at the atomic level. You mentioned this technique has been used for billions of years, Vilar noted, across multiple worlds. Photosynthesis evolved independently on many planets, Mia explained. It's one of the most fundamental life processes in the universe. Sometimes the simplest solutions are universal. When Instructor Gorth's voice came through the communication system 4 hours later announcing the end of the exercise, the atmosphere in Section C was drastically different from where it had started. Report on your survival strategies, Gorth commanded. While other teams had struggled with their technological failures, Mia's team had not only survived, but had actually improved their air quality during the exercise. They explained their biological approach, demonstrating the algae tanks that continued to bubbles with life. Remarkable, Gorth commented, his tentacles writhing with what might have been approval. The human cadet applied principles that some of your civilizations abandoned millennia ago. Yet when your advanced systems failed, these principles proved most reliable. Back in the main facility, as the teams debriefed, Mia found herself surrounded by alien cadets who had previously ignored her. They peppered her with questions about Earth's biological sciences, about how humans approached problems when technology was limited or unavailable. On my world, our ancestors abandoned such methods when we achieved quantum manipulation, Razuk admitted. We considered them obsolete. Perhaps we discarded wisdom along with perceived primitiveness. The experience had profound effects on the entire cohort. The alien cadets began incorporating biological solutions into their training regimens. They studied Earth's history, learning about how humans had used everything from fermentation to selective breeding to solve complex problems. Mia's algae solution became a case study at the academy. Instructors began including primitive technology scenarios in training exercises, recognizing that over-reliance on advanced systems could be a dangerous vulnerability. Today's exercise demonstrated a crucial principle, Instructor Gorth announced to the assembled cadets. Sophistication is not always superior to simplicity. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the most robust. As days passed, the dynamic among the cadets had shifted entirely. Mia was no longer the curiosity from a primitive world. She had become a valued team member whose alternative perspective often provided solutions others missed. During a follow-up exercise simulating engine failure on a transport vessel, it was Mia who suggested using the biological materials in the food storage areas to create a bacterial fuel cell. While other teams struggled with inoperable quantum drives, her team successfully generated enough power to restore basic systems. You've changed how we think about problems, Vilar told her during a break between exercises. We were so focused on replacing failed systems with identical systems that we couldn't see alternative approaches. The algae tanks had done more than provide oxygen during a crisis. They had become a symbol of adaptability, of the value in maintaining knowledge about fundamental life processes, even in an age of incredible technological advancement. 3 weeks later, during graduation exercises, Mia received commendation for innovative problem solving. But more importantly, She had earned the genuine respect of her alien peers. They no longer saw Earth humans as primitives to be tolerated in an advanced galactic community. Instead, they recognized humans as valuable contributors who brought unique perspectives to complex challenges. Urzook, who had become a close friend despite their rocky beginning, summed it up best in his graduation speech. "We came here believing that technological advancement was the measure of civilization. But true advancement lies in maintaining wisdom across all levels of understanding, from quantum mechanics to the simple magic of life itself." The algae tanks still bubbled in Section C, maintained now as a permanent reminder of the lesson learned during that critical exercise. Sometimes when facing the unknown, the oldest answers were the best answers. And sometimes what appeared primitive was actually profound. As Mia prepared to leave Siraxis 4 for advanced placement in the Galactic Defense Force, she reflected on how much had changed. She had come to prove that humans deserved to be part of the galactic community. Instead, she had proven that diversity of thought and approach was essential for the community's survival. The alien cadets, who had once mocked Earth's low-tech solutions, now carried with them a new appreciation for biological systems, for simple solutions, and for the value of different perspectives. They understood that true strength came not from having the most advanced technology, but from having the wisdom to know when that technology wasn't the answer. In the end, the biggest lesson wasn't about algae or oxygen or survival techniques. It was about recognizing that every sapient species had something valuable to contribute, regardless of their technological level. The universe was vast and full of challenges that would require every type of thinking, every approach, every perspective to overcome. The small tanks of algae continued to bubble, producing oxygen through the same ancient process that had sustained life across countless worlds for billions of years. In their simplicity lay a profound truth. Sometimes the most primitive technologies were also the most immortal.